Hi, I'm Rocky B, and welcome to my channel. I realized that I posted my first video, which you can go back and watch. It's called How to Find Your Life's Purpose. And then I realized I didn't introduce myself. So I'm just going to make this video as a quick introduction, and then next week we'll dive in deeper to different topics like purpose, how the body keeps the count. And before I get to all of that, who am I? And why should you bother to be here to check it out and to um, learn from my experience and what I've been doing? But basically, it's kind of a long, winding story, but the essence of this channel and my favorite things to explore and talk about are sound healing and different ways of self care. I ultimately realized that one of the main things I've sort of been working towards, chasing, curious about, is ways to improve my physical and mental health after I discovered myself in a lot of chronic illness and ongoing issues within my body and ultimately my mind. I suffered from anxiety for a long time. I went through bouts of depression, and honestly, at the times that that was happening, I didn't even realize that that's what was actually going on. And now that I've learned how to mentally mark, as I call it, these situations, I have spent the last 15 years, so 2010, we're in 2025 now. I've spent the last decade and a half exploring many different modalities to optimize my physical and mental health. And now I'm here on this channel to share those things with you. The first thing I'd like to do is ask you what you're interested in, what you're curious about when it comes to optimizing your well being, both physically and mentally. As the one thing I will say, if I could go back in time and go back to the 2010 version of me, is I would work on my mindset first. I would work on where my thoughts are. I would work on where my belief system came from. Obviously, for a lot of us, it's influenced by the people we were raised by. So, whether it was our parents, some other relatives, the culture, the community. They say it takes a village to raise a child. But the thing that we have to also remember is that the child is then impressed with all of those beliefs, whether they are expansive or they're limiting. The village definitely impresses their mindset onto a child, and it's not until you get older, you grow hopefully wiser, and you start to really question why you think the way you think, why you do the things you do. One of the stories that my mom used to tell, and my parents and my family are from Jamaica, is they would talk about how there was a woman who had there was a woman who she would always cook a pot roast, and she would always cut off the ends of the roast. And then one day her husband was like, "Why do you always trim the ends off of the roast?" And then she goes, "I don't know. My mother did that." And then she went to her mother and said, "Mom, why do you always trim off the ends of the roast?" And the mother said, "I just always saw my mother do that, so I just thought that's the way I make my roast because that's how my mother showed me how to make it." And finally, they went to the grandmother and was like, "Grandma, why do you cut off the ends of the roast?" And she said, "Because we never had a pot that was big enough to fit the entire roast." So imagine, for 3 generations, they were doing this thing unconsciously or subconsciously or just following what was shown to them, not realizing that it was actually coming from a place of limitation. So, with that little story, old wives' tale, whatever you want to call it, I want to leave you with that in mind as I welcome you to my channel where I will be exploring ways to identify and ultimately release yourself from limited ways of thinking and being by bringing in more expansion through sound and self care and the practice of understanding who we really are, which I talked about it in the first video about uh, you as your life purpose. So, again, please comment, like, subscribe. Tell me what you'd like to explore in the area of self care, sound healing, mindset and mental health mastery. And I would love to share, to cover those things and explore that with you as I invite you into this community that I'm creating on this channel. So I'll see you in the next video. And I can't wait to explore more of these topics with you.